Once upon a time, a plethora of towers started appearing all over the world. No one knew the reason behind this phenomenon, but according to the accounts of the people who were present, the tower bore a striking resemblance to mythical tales, as if someone had rewritten those stories. Some individuals were delighted to encounter heroes from the myths, but everything took a turn against humanity. Dungeons and monsters began to emerge around the tower, and in order to safeguard the world from these creatures, people began to study the tower and clear the dungeons, earning them the title of subterranean adventurers. When Han Youngmin was a child, the adventurers he saw on television were extraordinary to him. The boy was enthralled by the television, eager to catch a glimpse of his beloved heroes. These adventurers saved people through their formidable strength, and everyone knew their names. The boy regarded the adventurers with awe, watching them with his mouth agape. Therefore, Han made up his mind that he, too, would become an adventurer and save the world, just like them. In pursuit of achieving his cherished dream, the young lad emerged as if cursed. He immersed himself in the study of numerous volumes within the confines of his chamber, finding all of it intriguing and captivating. Day by day, Han's comprehension of mana and mutations grew. The lad dedicated himself to learning from his early childhood through his youth. Upon devouring all the books associated with adventurers, Han made the decision to undertake the entrance examinations. Han Youngmin, belonging to the 27th group, successfully passed the written exam and attained the first rank, enabling him to gain admission to the prestigious Academy of Adventurers, reserved exclusively for the elite, a fact that filled Han with immense joy. The young lad comprehends that at long last, his cherished dream shall be realized, and he, too, shall be able to embrace the role of an underground adventurer. Han Youngmin achieved the 274th rank during his second year of study in the inaugural semester. The lad is aware that no matter how he strives, there stand walls before him that he cannot surmount. Regardless of his earnest efforts and rigorous training, his body remains obstinate, unwilling to heed his volition. Han experiences a profound sense of desolation, for he lacks any unique ability possessed solely by adventurers. Consequently, the lad resolves to take an academic leave and confine himself to his chamber, relinquishing his sole dream of becoming an adventurer, which once burned within him. The lad sits at his laptop, partaking in some store-bought delicacy, as he contemplates that if it had been 2 years prior, his peers would already be on their 3rd year. Instead of relentlessly pursuing an unattainable dream, Han commenced crafting fictitious tales, a saga of a swordsman cleaving through the horizon, a chronicle of a hunter who spent a lifetime in the forest of mortality, and a narrative of the one who forged magic. That which Han could not accomplish in life, he manifested within his stories. Han composes the final chapter of his latest tale, reluctantly accepting that every story must come to an end. He decides to conclude the narrative after indulging in a brief respite of slumber. Weary and aware of his fatigue, the lad retires to his bed. Switching on the television, Han tunes into the news, eager to hear the latest updates. The news anchor reports that their nation's sole divine adventurer, Rachel, has completed her mission in the United States and is returning to Korea. The majority of threats have been vanquished, fostering a sense of global harmony among people. The sovereign of divine abilities, Rachel, is making her triumphant return. Rachel possesses a remarkable youthfulness, captivating Han's admiration as she became an adventurer at such an early age. Meanwhile, Han ponders why she lacks any special aptitude. The young lad can confidently assert that he toiled more diligently than anyone else. Frustration wells within Han, and he longs to let go of these thoughts, for they are no longer relevant to him. The world seeks a new cell to construct a tower, and then the world discovers the perfect time and place, as described in the novel, which can be applied to the tower. The world creates the tower at the same time and place of the events. Han wakes up in the morning and hears a noise. He forgot to turn off the television. The news reports an unprecedented occurrence. 5 new towers have been erected in the country, bearing names like the Horizon-Slashing Blade, the Harbinger of Evil, and the Black Divine Scroll. Han is in a state of panic. Subsequent news reports reveal that just as they thought they were approaching peace, new towers and dungeons emerged. Urgent updates resonate, as 2 additional towers have been discovered, bringing the count to 7. The association speculates that these towers will be of the highest rank. Han realizes that the news is mentioning the names of the heroes from his novel, and it couldn't have been a mere coincidence, as these names are incredibly familiar to him. Hastily, Han rushes to his laptop and opens it, only to find that his novel has vanished. Even all the original copies he kept in his catalog have disappeared. This evening, the administration will make an announcement regarding these new towers. The association prioritizes the stabilization of the dungeons. Han feels as though he is still in a dream. Suddenly, a blue screen appears before Han. The screen informs him that the young boy's novel titled The Century of Turmoil has been chosen by the world. The tower of this magnificent novel is in the process of creation. The boy can't believe it. Han requests an explanation, each word spoken slower than the last. The screen explains that the world has created a tower using his novel. The boy realizes that his novel has been stolen. The screen displays Han's attributes, name is Han Youngman, class as the author of stories, the title as the true ruler of the 7 towers, the unique ability of immersion, and a status entangled. The files containing Han's novels have vanished, and the news announced towers bearing the same names as the heroes of his books, not just 1 or 2 towers. The screen notifies that a new unique class ability has been discovered. Han has acquired a new ability, immersion. Could it be that the boy has obtained a unique ability exclusive to his class? Could it be that a person without talent has managed to acquire a unique ability? With the aid of this ability, this skill, Han will be able to assume the role of an offensive type. Han indulged in excess. The young man believes that he was mistaken. Han is unaware of how many thousands of times he has attempted in the past few days, yet he still remained far from acquiring the skill. Activating the immersion ability seems impossible. The target of immersion is not a true human. The distance to the target is too vast. The target's emotions are not discernible, rendering the activation of the ability impossible. Han becomes infuriated due to the stringent requirements. He had thought that the unique class skill would be beneficial. The young man decides to visit the store for some beer. In the store, Han contemplates his own ability. The goal of immersion is to discover the essence of emotions, values, thoughts, judgments, personality types, desires, and love in order to harness this power. How can one even engage this power? Suddenly, someone calls out Han's name from behind. The young man turns around and recognizes his neighbor, Lee Saren, a student with a unique ability known as the Ice World. They used to be friends when Han helped her at the request of her mother. Moreover, Lee is studying at his academy, although he hardly ever saw her there because she took an academic leave shortly after enrolling. Han avoided Saren, fearing that the gossip had reached the girl. Saren smiles and mentions that she and Han haven't seen each other in a long time. The young man acknowledges that it is indeed true. Lee takes Han's hand and inquires about what he has been up to lately. She notices the scent of alcohol coming from him and asks if he has eaten anything. Han replies that he is just buying something to snack on. Lee advises him to eat properly instead of consuming fast food. Han chuckles and asks if she has settled into the academy yet. Lee asks if he wants to change the subject and answers affirmatively. She tells Youngman that he is popular at the academy and she heard that he received an offer from the Heavenly Castle Guild for a challenging position as an analyst. The Heavenly Castle is among the top 3 guilds in the country. It is said that gaining entry into such an organization cannot be achieved solely through academic achievements. Han is known for declining the guild that everyone desires to join. Han asks if people still remember that. Lee confirms that they do. Lee attempts to ask something, but Han interrupts her, stating that he has finished his purchases and suggesting they leave. There is a story that Han doesn't want to share with anyone, a world to which he has no connection. The class of true authorship has revealed the energy of Everton. This energy is possessed by the followers of demons. What are they doing here? Lee asks Han what happened. Suddenly, a follower of Everton's energy collapses. Lee wants to help him, but the young man stops her. Dark energy begins to emanate from the fallen man. Everton's follower has summoned a bloodthirsty wolf. 2 demonic wolves appear and intimidate the people. Suddenly, a group of individuals emerges, the avowed enemies of the 7 heroes, willing to make any sacrifice to achieve their goal. They are the followers of demons, fanatics from Han's novel. Lee says they must save the people, but she recalls that the young man may not possess a unique ability yet. Han declares that he will distract them, while Lee orders everyone to evacuate. Han realizes that the only thing he can do is escape. Suddenly, a wolf approaches the young man closely, launching an attack and leaving a scratch on his cheek. Han searches for something that can serve as a weapon. The young man discovers a reinforcement and fights the demonic wolves with it. The wolves bend the reinforcement. Will Han be able to withstand the next attack? What should he do? Meanwhile, Lee protects the people with her own power. Han hopes that he can utilize his immersion at least for now. He recalls his novel, the story he has been writing every day for the past 2 years, that world and its heroes. He knows everything about this book. The strongest swordsman in the novel wields a blade that cleaves through the horizon. Han decides to harness its power. The young man attempts to activate his immersion, but the power difference is too great. The use of this ability comes with a 100% chance of death. Han tries, but nothing works for him. He must choose another target for immersion. Han recalls another character and applies his immersion. The skill is successfully activated. A tower is a fusion of stories and records. For instance, if a tower is based on Greek mythology, and the ruler of the tower is Hercules, then everything that happened to him in legends will occur in real life as well. And right now, the heroes of Han's novels have become rulers of the towers. This means that all the people associated with them also exist, even if they are just minor characters. Han utilizes immersion and transforms into Malon, a simple gatekeeper whose name was not even mentioned in the book. The gatekeeper's task is to fight numerous weak enemies. Han possesses sufficient knowledge about the chosen target, and the conditions for using immersion have been fulfilled. The young man is confident that he will succeed. Han valiantly battles the demonic wolves. The young man's comprehension of spear mastery rapidly grows, and his combat instincts improve. Han temporarily acquired some deflection skills. He slays a wolf, and from its body flows violet blood. The sight alarms the other wolves, causing them to flee. However, the young man swings and hurls his makeshift spear at one of them, determined not to miss. It seems the danger has passed. Lai inquires if everyone is all right. The people assure her that they are unharmed. Lai instructs them to follow her, intending to swiftly evacuate everyone and assist Youngman. Lai has heard that Han still lacks certain abilities, but as an academy cadet, he surely knows what to do. Lai observes the violet blood on the floor. The bloody wolves, summoned as followers of Everton, have been eradicated. Han stands with blood-stained weaponry in his hands, while two demonic wolf corpses lie beneath him. The immersion comes to an end, and Han collapses, yet a smile graces his face, for he has successfully employed his ability. The combat skills of the first level have been adeptly mastered. Soon, Han will learn to utilize the muscles of his upper body. He exerted far more strength than he could withstand, and there may be adverse consequences from the forced augmentation of power. Han experiences an intense pain. Lai asks her companion if everything is alright and inquires if Han is in any discomfort. The young man, lying on the floor, responds that everything is fine. It's just a muscle cramp because he hasn't trained in a long time. Lai inquires again if everything is truly alright with Han, to which he assures her that all is well. Lai asks the young man when he was in the academy, questioning whether he mentioned not possessing any particular skill. In Lai's opinion, Han fought quite skillfully for someone without an ability. Han rises and sees the wreckage throughout the entire store, with splatters of violet blood around. The young man can hardly believe his eyes. Did he really do all this? Han gazes at his blood-stained hands. Did he accomplish all of this with his own hands? The young man is genuinely delighted that he succeeded. His body moved instinctively after being cornered, and his training at the academy was not in vain. Han was unaware that the submersion ability could be utilized on secondary characters. Han's body can borrow the strength of any character if it can handle the strain, but there are side effects to consider. Lai is convinced that Han should see a doctor, but the young man insists that everything is fine. A little training will fix it all. At this rate, Han won't be able to use submersion. He needs to increase his endurance. Han, utterly exhausted from the encounter with the demonic wolves in the store, lies nearly beaten on the bed in his chamber. The sound of his phone disturbs him, and he switches off his gadget, displeased. Feeling a tad remorseful, Han takes his phone into his hands and discovers a message from Saren, who apologizes to her friend, referring to him as a noble. Han fails to comprehend why he should apologize to the girl. A thought arises in Han's mind, and he yearns to confirm it. The young man abruptly rises from his bed, but his muscles ache unimaginably, causing him to collapse onto the floor, his head hitting the ground painfully. By chance, Han notices numerous missed calls and messages on his phone, which he had set to silent mode. Han fails to comprehend what is happening. He stumbles upon an online article with the headline "Wolves Attack." Academy Cadet deals with it all, featuring his own photograph. Han engages in a phone conversation with Saren. The girl expresses her deep regret, admitting she didn't want to bring it up because Han dislikes dealing with the Academy. Han inquires about how the article was created within a day, as he did not anticipate it becoming a problem, considering the monsters appeared outside the dungeon. Han tells Saren that she mentioned it accidentally, so there's nothing to worry about. The article has accumulated a considerable number of comments. Some are negative, criticizing Han for resembling more of an unemployed individual than an academy student, or suggesting that the weakest monster doesn't deserve a separate article. There are also comments expressing gratitude for the young man's rescue of people and their families. Han begins receiving messages of various content, with some people wanting to meet him and others asking him not to pretend to be a hero. One message, in particular, is from Han's instructor, inquiring whether the boy's ability has awakened. Han wonders since when he became so intriguing to his instructor. Han converses with Seren over the phone once again. The young woman questions why he is silent, to which Han responds that he is simply lost in thought. Han promises to treat Seren to a meal 10 times, which surprises him a bit, but Seren is not at fault here. Seren asks if she can choose something expensive. The young man responds firmly and hangs up. Now that Han's body has grown stronger and he has discovered how to utilize his ability, he cannot sit idle. Initially, when the towers first appeared, an incredibly large number of remarkable adventurers attempted to confront the attacking towers. Those who succeeded gained the skills of restoration or attained recognition and public attention. However, now the difficulty of the tower has increased, and it is almost impossible to attack it. Nevertheless, despite this, the number of people who want to take on the challenge has not diminished. They continue to strive even after such failures. Moreover, there is a proverb that states that one can achieve success in life, even if they are alone. Han finds it strange that no one has been able to enter the Swordmaster's tower, not even individuals with high rank. Han arrives at this tower, and it appears exactly as the young man described it. Therefore, he wishes to examine it more closely. Initially, Han traveled by train, and then he walked a considerable distance on foot. The young man grew weary, chastising himself for not training enough. Finally, Han reaches the tower without getting lost. He stands before a grand stone in front of the tower. Drawing nearer, he extends his hand and touches the stone, feeling the energy of one of the 7 heroes. For a hero, it is quite extraordinary to witness messages and missives in reality that were previously confined to computers or within his mind. Suddenly, someone behind him apologizes, addressing Han. A certain man observes that the young man is approaching the tower for the first time. He warns him about the danger of casually touching everything despite his curiosity. He is right, as one can receive an invitation to the tower by merely touching any object associated with it, so the sorcerers refrain from touching them without careful consideration. Han assures the man that he won't be sent to the tower, so everything is fine. This is inevitable because the young man is exceedingly weak. Can we consider this a blessing in disguise? Even if Han were invited to the tower, he would only be able to escape. Suddenly, the title of the true master of the 7 towers resonates with the tower, and as a response, the tower's master invites Han. Abruptly, the young man finds himself on a peculiar field. The master of the tower, Eden, sits in his chamber and observes Han on the screen. He considers him to be a mere fool and cannot comprehend why the young man is wandering around the tower. It appears strange to him. Eden scrutinizes Han's mana and concludes that he is a mere mortal, but this troubles him. The tower's master believes that Han is concealing something and desires to uncover the truth. Eden decides to invite Han to the tower for a conversation. The sword that cleaves the horizon extends an invitation to Han, summoning him to the first floor of the tower. Before Han, a new task unfolds. Type, Tower Challenge Difficulty. Unknown monsters of catastrophe rank will awaken in an hour, and he must ascend from the first floor before they strike, with an undetermined reward awaiting him. The heightened mana concentration stimulates Han's respiratory system. The wave of monsters will manifest soon, leaving less than an hour. The young man comprehends that his end is near. An ordinary individual lacking combat skills has entered the tower, an unprecedented occurrence. Han has exerted tremendous effort to ascend the tower, yet the conclusion is that he is a competent attacker, a demeaning label he acquired after securing the last position in the practical trial. Type, Tower Task Difficulty. Even if Han were to awaken a unique ability, he would be unable to assail the tower. Before the hero, a screen materializes, serving as a conduit for communication with Eden. Upon the screen, it is inscribed that Han stands rooted like a statue, an expression of despair etched upon his countenance. The tower's master has reduced the level of difficulty as much as possible, extending an invitation to Han to enter the tower, yet this development has still profoundly shaken him. Eden remarks that Han is a cripple by rank, merely fortunate enough to progress this far. Han is astounded by the Tower Master's capacity to diminish the challenges, to which the Master responds that this is his tower, and he alone determines the degree of arduousness for its traversal. The words of Eden strike a chord within Han, realizing that he is the very embodiment of the tower. Eden inquires if the young man knows him. Certainly, Han is acquainted with Eden, for it is he who created him. Can Han disclose this information? This particular Eden may differ from the one the boy knew. Initially, Han must ascertain. Eden scribes that within a few days of the tower's existence, he has garnered considerable renown. Becoming excessively renowned wearies him. From these words, Han comprehends that this is indeed the very Eden he envisioned. Eden is the chief among the 7 heroes, a character who embodies Han himself, devoid of any talent. A boy adept at wielding a sword but lacking skill in mana manipulation. Eden awakened his mana with the guidance of his teacher, encountered companions, and embarked on a journey to the castle of the devil. After emerging victorious over the demons, he became a revered hero by all. Eden is more than a mere embodiment of Han's dream, which is why he is the boy's beloved character. Han smiles and can hardly believe that he is conversing with the protagonist of the novel he himself authored. Eden grows angry and questions if Han is listening to him, inquiring about the peculiar smile on his face. Eden reveals that he summoned Han and lowered the difficulty, thus the boy must find his own way. Eden wishes Han success. Han implores Eden not to go, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. The boy is left alone, with no other choice. If Han were unable to cope, the tower would not have summoned him. There are 50 minutes remaining until the appearance of the catastrophe rank monsters. Han finds himself within the realm of his own novel, therefore there must be a way. Suddenly, a dragon soars above the boy, and in 50 minutes, all those monstrous creatures will launch a simultaneous assault. Fortunately, the dragon doesn't notice the boy, but if Han is slow, he will perish. Han must quickly discern his whereabouts. Damp soil, surrounded by verdant meadows. Through investigation, Han gathers information about his location. Suddenly, Han steps on something. Lowering his gaze, the youth beholds numerous planks scattered on the ground. He surmises that they are fragments of wooden swords, yet he remains uncertain if he can wield them, as the blades bear an uncanny appearance. Suddenly, the lad notices an engraving on one of the swords bearing the name Eden. It serves as an additional clue. Errors cannot exist. Han discovers a record regarding the tower's first floor. It is the place from the opening chapter of the book where the talentless boy awakened the genius within himself, the training ground of Eden. Thus, Eden's awakening has become a part of the tower, starting from the prelude. Han wonders why he finds himself precisely in this chapter, considering that Eden claimed to have lowered the difficulty. Even if Han possesses knowledge of combat, can a person like him achieve such a feat, no matter how prepared he may be? Han believes that success awaits him. The more the boy dwells on his failures, the more time he squanders in vain. Han delves into the earth and uncovers something of significance. The lad discovers a plant that appears repulsively grotesque. This exquisite flora, with a high probability, will permanently augment his magical prowess by 1. For Han, it is an authentic jackpot. The plant boasts interwoven leather-like coconut fibers, making it a remarkably rare specimen of spiritual herbs, flourishing solely in places imbued with pristine mana. Han stumbles upon approximately 50 specimens of such plants, although their discovery proved arduous. Perhaps the youth will succeed in uncovering even more of these botanical treasures. Since they resemble fibers, it is unlikely that anyone has ever contemplated their edibility. Han struggles to comprehend whether it is truly safe, but he consumes the plant. The herb is exceedingly bitter in taste, a fact that Han completely forgets, as it is simply inedible. Han, with his discerning palate, exhibits great finickiness when it comes to food, and his body vehemently rejects the notion of ingesting it. The arrival of the monsters is merely 45 minutes away. Youngman attempts to regain his composure and consumes the plant, tears streaming down his face, for he could perish. Therefore, the taste holds no significance. Time is running out for the young lad, and he must devour as many plants as possible. Only 15 minutes remain until the arrival of the monsters. How many plants has Han consumed thus far? 20? 40? He cannot recall. Undoubtedly, he must have consumed even more, as he has a sense of impending satiety. Blood trickles from Han's nose, and he feels as though his stomach has been turned inside out. The perception of mana intensifies, accompanied by an enhanced resilience to the strain of mana usage. The equilibrium of his body has been disrupted. Han was meant to acquire a sufficient amount of mana, and now he pours his entire reservoir into this wooden sword, just as Eden did. Meanwhile, Eden keeps a close eye on Han, observing that the boy is aware of the braided leather coconut fibers. Eden witnessed Han suddenly digging the ground and consuming the plants to enhance his mana. Eden fails to comprehend how Han deduced this course of action, as this particular plant does not exist on Earth. Eden surmises that Han must have possessed prior knowledge about this tower. Han decides to embody Dari Marsh, who was Eden's teacher. Dari was a mage from a royal family in a small kingdom. After losing her comrades during the demon conquest, she started living outside the city where she encountered Eden. At that time, Eden frequently injured himself due to his inexperienced use of mana. Derry felt pity for Eden and taught him how to control mana. Soon after, Eden's mana stabilized. Overjoyed, Derry became a magic teacher in this village, becoming Eden's first mentor. Han embarks on his immersion. The young man fulfills all the requirements to immerse himself in the high-level mage, Derry Marsh. Han becomes infused with magical blessings. Eden observes that Han's mana resembles that of his teacher, and he can't comprehend how it is possible. The mana that emanates is purified and gathers within Han's heart. It flows from his heart to the tips of his fingers. The mana is critically depleted. Finally, all the mana pours into the wooden sword. A profound anomaly occurs within Han's heart, as the excessively high utilization of mana leads to disturbances throughout his body. Eden wonders about the identity of Han, for he possesses the ability to manipulate mana. Not that Han is unafraid of death, but instead of succumbing to helpless demise, choosing to perish after doing everything possible to survive is exponentially superior. Han sacrifices himself for the sake of his weapon and meets his end. A live report is being conducted near the tower. The reporter narrates that numerous adventurers have gathered here. It has been 2 weeks since the tower's emergence, yet no one has been granted the right to enter. Will they witness the arrival of a hero capable of assaulting the tower and thwarting the monster invasion? The reporter approaches a particular adventurer, assuming he is a celebrity, and indeed he is. The reporter seeks to interview the young man, who agrees willingly. The reporter mentions that it has been 2 weeks since the construction of this tower, and she asks the adventurer for his thoughts on the likelihood of someone appearing today who can assail it. The adventurer declares that it is impossible. It is indeed true that this tower is connected to a sword, but no one has managed to unravel its mystery. People around the tower are informed that the first floor has been cleared. Can this be possible? It is, of course, only the first floor, and barely 14 days have passed. One reporter speculates that the one who cleared the floor possessed the right skill or was granted entry for some reason. Another reporter suggests that this is not one of the initial towers, so it is unlikely to house a remarkable warrior, leaving room for the emergence of an exceptional newcomer. Suddenly, the reporter hurries towards the entrance to secure the first interview, accidentally stepping on the sleeping Han. The maiden marvels at how soundly Han sleeps, even after she accidentally stepped on him. It is a wonder to her, as moments ago there was nobody around. The reporter contemplates whether or not to wake the lad, but suddenly her colleagues call out to her, and she rushes to join them. Han awakens and realizes that he is lying outside. Suddenly, Han starts to hear a voice. The voice inquires if Han has finally awakened, albeit late, as everyone has already departed. Han recognizes the voice as that of Eden. Han asks how Eden can speak from beyond the tower. Eden affirms that it is indeed possible. Han is dissatisfied with such a brief response. Eden clarifies that the only one who can speak to him from inside or outside the tower is Han. Han asks why that is the case. Eden says that he himself is curious about it. Han thought that Eden would know everything, being a part of the tower, but it seems he was mistaken. Eden says that regardless, Han has done well. Eden believes that having someone like Han as a companion could be a problem, but he tells Han that as long as the lad is by his side, he will not feel lonely. Han bids farewell to Eden, stating that it is time for him to go, but Eden enjoys conversing with Han and says that he will pursue the boy. Han asks Eden what he said. Eden advises to continue in the same spirit. Han does not understand what is wrong with his body. It is overflowing with mana, and his mana has increased 6-fold. The boy marvels at how it can increase so rapidly, and Han has acquired 7 new abilities. The boy rejoices in his progress. Suddenly, Eden calls him a simpleton. Han asks him to give a warning before speaking. Eden calls Han a coward. Han states that anyone can be caught off guard if the heir starts talking. Eden tells Han that he has given him more than just skills and asks him to look at his attributes. Han says that he has just looked at them. Eden demands that the boy take another look at his attributes. Han examines his attributes and pleasantly marvels. He is simply astounded by what he sees. Such a reaction was expected by Eden. Han no longer has any limitations on the use of mana. Han decides to test his new skills and abilities and heads to the training center. Suddenly, a soda can shatters in front of Han. He hears Yujel's voice, calling him a degenerate and mentioning that they haven't seen each other in a long time. Yujel asks why Han decided to emerge only now. Han fails to comprehend the presence of this wretched Yujel. Han and Yujel are classmates of Youngman, and the latter possesses a rare and extraordinary ability. Yujel proposes another training battle. They have fought before, and Han tasted defeat. Yujel feared Han to some extent due to his slight intelligence, but now he sees nothing exceptional in him. Yujil labels Han as a devilish botanist and implores him not to meddle with the masters. Han never anticipated crossing paths with Yujil again. Yujil claims that he will defeat Han with just one strike. Han attempts to utter something, but Yujil interrupts him and grabs him by the collar. Suddenly, a man approaches and inquires about the ongoing scuffle. He notices the academy insignia on Yujil and remarks that children of this era have become utter fools. This man goes by the name of Choi Bem-yun, and Yujil doesn't want him to notice his presence. Thus, he tosses Han aside and departs, telling the boy that he got lucky but they will meet again. Han understands that he needs to restrain himself and focus on discovering his true strength. Eden tells Han that Yujil is indeed an outcast and he should have at least struck Yujil on the back of his head. Eden inquires whether Han will easily let Yujil go. Han retorts that it's easy for Eden to say, but such imbeciles don't bother him. Right now, Han's main focus is to discover his own strength. The gates open, and Han finds himself in the combat assessment area. He chooses the minimum difficulty level. Eden questions why Han is acting all cool after selecting the easiest mode. Han explains that they will adjust the appropriate difficulty level based on his abilities and magic, regardless of his choice. Taking things slowly and steadily is important. The weakest monster, Golbat, of rank F appears. Han selects a sword as his weapon. He senses his body becoming as light as during the use of immersion. Han is curious to see just how much he has changed. The boy defeats Golbat in 3 seconds, surpassing his previous record of 32 seconds. As the record improves, his speed increases. Han is elated with his victory. Eden advises against getting complacent. Han agrees, recognizing the importance of staying vigilant. Another monster appears before Han. The boy decides to focus and give it his all. Yujil notices that people are making noise near the screen and spots Choi Bem-yun among them. At last, they met, an opportunity for Yujil to have a conversation with Choi. Yujil approaches the teacher and expresses his desire to learn from him. He asks if Choi could watch a video of his training battle. Choi replies that it would be challenging, but he has just found an interesting friend. Yujil is curious to know who caught the teacher's attention and he sees Han. Choi addresses Han through the microphone. Yujil shouts to the teacher that he is better than Han. The virtual chamber into which Han entered governs all 5 senses. Sometimes the task may be to endure many hours in extreme cold. One can even deeply experience the fear of death, hence most test participants succumb to intense fear. Yujil cannot understand what is wrong with Han. Could he be completely fearless? Don't the horrors affect him at all? Participants always try to avoid terror and fight against it. Choi wonders whether Han is fearless or simply ignorant. Choi tells Han through the microphone to approach the monster a little closer, as that way he will be able to see its weak spot. Han fails to comprehend what Choi is discussing. Does he really expect Han to approach such a terrifying monster right now? Nonetheless, Han decides to proceed and notices something on the monster's neck. Han surmises that it must be the weak spot. Gathering his strength, he channels all his might into the strike and delivers a blow to the creature's vulnerable spot. The battle lasted 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Han emerges victorious over the Iron Wolf. The audience is enthralled. Choi is elated, while Yujil is slightly bewildered by what has just transpired. Yujil can hardly believe that the person before them was truly Han Youngman. Choi asks Yujil if he knows this young man. Yujil responds that he knows him to some extent. Han, exhausted, exits the training room. Eden inquires if the young man got tired so quickly. Eden calls Han weak, but acknowledges that for someone weak, he performed admirably. Han asks whether it is a compliment or an insult. The truth is, Han took a 2-year hiatus, and his physique is rather feeble. If he had trained his body, it would have been easier for him to employ submersion. Han could submerge Eden, but he is confident that he certainly won't submerge himself in such an arrogant personality. Choi approaches Han and states that he has observed Han before and believes that the young man performed admirably. Choi notices that Han's swordsmanship style resembles that of an academic, so he asks if Han is a student. Han inquires about Choi's identity. Choi explains that he is simply a representative of the academy, and suddenly Yujil approaches from behind Choi. Han mentions that he used to attend the academy but is currently on academic leave. Han expresses his dissatisfaction with the inadequate teaching methods of the academy instructors. Choi asks if the instructors exhibit such blatant discrimination towards their students, but Choi adds that it is fortunate, and proposes that Han becomes his teacher. Upon hearing this, Yujil becomes greatly infuriated. Choi proposes to teach Han not only swordsmanship but also hand-to-hand combat or even spear techniques, and anything else the young man wishes to learn. Han is taken aback and supposes that Choi holds the title of Master of Everything, but he dismisses such a possibility and declines the offer. Choi asks if Han does not trust him and asserts that he will make him believe. Choi desires to personally study Han and determine what suits him best. Choi endeavors to delve into Han's mind. Choi delves into Han's mind, perceiving nothing extraordinary in the young man's magic. Meanwhile, Han experiences unbearable pain and struggles to breathe. He cannot comprehend what exactly Choi is doing and why he is targeting him specifically. This situation infuriates Han. He realizes that he must compel Choi to leave his body as quickly as possible. The hero's magic defends Han, launching a counterattack against his adversary. Choi observes that this young man is highly intriguing. Han learns that the individual who penetrated his mind is none other than father of adventurers Choi Bam-yeon. Choi's magic proves to be far more potent than Han had envisioned. Han considers Choi a mere monster in comparison to himself. Choi concludes his investigation of the young man and suggests that he should become his disciple. Yujil observes the events unfolding, as he always does. In Yujil's opinion, Yujil believes that he works harder and possesses more talent, yet all the attention is directed towards Han. Choi remarks that Han has been fortunate. The following day, Han simply rests by the computer. Choi had told him that he needed to prepare something, so Han should take a little break, for when their training sessions begin, Han will be begging for mercy. However, according to Choi's belief, the training won't even end if the young man were to die. Han decides to gather strength and gather information for now. Suddenly, he comes across news that all the academy instructors have been dismissed, and he suspects that Choi is behind it. Additionally, the young man sees the prize that has been prepared for the winner of the potion-making competition, and it is nothing more than a stone. Eden states that it is no ordinary stone, it is Bastium, a rare ore found in the Ark of Ruin. Bastium is an ancient shard, evidence of the existence of God. Despite the fact that the royal family greatly values this ore and purchases it every year, they have managed to gather only 30 kilograms. That's how precious this mineral is in Han's novel, even though in reality, it resembles an ordinary stone. Eden becomes angry that Han refers to Bastium as an ordinary pebble, as it is highly valuable. And who on earth came up with the idea of making it a prize in the competition? Eden inquires of Han whether he possesses the skill to concoct potions. Han confesses that their relationship has not been amicable from the very beginning. Eden declares that from this day forth, a hellish preparation shall commence, for he desires Han to obtain Bastium at any cost. Han is left in a state of shock, as the competition is merely a week away. The remedies, also known as potions, are objects used for the healing of the wounded. They are beneficial and conveniently portable. However, gaining admission to the Academy of Potion Making is a formidable task. If one manages to craft even low-level potions, they will be sought after by various guilds. The Han successfully concocts potions on his first attempt and marvels at his achievement. The young man reaches the first level of mastery in Imperial Alchemy. Han prepares a restoration potion, a rather ordinary one that relieves fatigue, accelerates regeneration, and swiftly heals minor wounds. After that day, Han immersed himself in the company of a low-ranking alchemist for 2 hours. If there was one thing he failed to consider, it was the fact that Eden is an extremely diligent worker. Eden always exhorts Han to toil ceaselessly until his last breath. Han felt as though his mind would burst with the weight of these profound insights. Distinguished individuals, including Master Reynolds' son, graced the competition. It was said that seasoned masters were not eligible to participate, yet they all gathered here. Han believed that the enigmatic mineral would not captivate them. While adventurers bring forth various materials from towers and dungeons, craftsmen shape them into wondrous artifacts. The association bestowed the title of Master Craftsman upon only 38 individuals, among whom they selected the top 8 and bestowed upon them the prestigious title of Master Craftsman. Han is reluctant to return home empty-handed. Eden suggests that if Han has time to think about other participants, it would be better to read a book, as their goal is Bastium. Han grows weary of Eden and decides to consume another potion. Suddenly, a young boy approaches Han and remarks that he has never seen him before. The boy inquires about the potions in Han's hands. Han responds that they are fatigue relief potions. The boy remarks that the competition did not allow the participation of the finest craftsmen, but he never imagined they would even let in stray dogs. Just then, the boy is summoned and he departs. Han is deeply offended by the way he was referred to and promises Eden that he will achieve victory at any cost. The participants are given a span of 2 hours to select herbs and concoct potions. The battle commences. The participants exhibit considerable skill, considering this is a competition among enthusiasts. The competition boasts costly and state-of-the-art equipment. Everyone is bustling about, engrossed in their tasks, but the boy who offended Han notices that Han simply stands idle, doing nothing. The boy presumes that Han is honing his mental faculties amidst the competition. Yet the herbs must be gathered immediately upon the commencement of the contests. The boy chooses not to interfere and proceeds with his own affairs. In the training chamber, the workers engage in repair work following Han's training session. The apprentice Choi is deemed quite gifted. It was then that Han managed to nullify Choi's skill, indicating that he possesses an ability of the same caliber or even surpassing it. Han delves into Ariana Pepper, a direct disciple of the most eminent alchemist in the novel. Ariana may not have been the most intellectually astute, but she excelled when it came to precision and mana control. Ariana was acutely aware of her shortcomings. She devoured over 100 books a day, filling the gaps in her knowledge. Ariana managed to inherit the knowledge ascendancy. Han imbibes the elixir from Ariana in order to acquire a vast reservoir of knowledge. Han finds himself in a state of weightlessness, immersed in a library brimming with volumes of knowledge. Will Han be able to absorb all this knowledge? The disparity in levels is immense, causing Han's head to split with pain, yet he must endure. The hero's mana fills the void of magical energy, temporarily transforming Han into an alchemical master, elevating his knowledge and expertise. Han's energy differs greatly from what it was during the study of alchemy. Eden is not yet accustomed to Han's abilities. The task is accomplished, but Han would have achieved nothing had it not been for the training he underwent last week. Just as Han begins to prepare the potion, he realizes that all the ingredients have been taken, leaving only poisonous plants. Eden suggests concocting a toxin. Eden speculates that Han could earn a lot of points if he prepares a potion capable of killing even a colossal monster. Han spots the Astondilopia plant, a unique specimen that induces intense heat when consumed. The veins will melt if the flower undergoes special processing. There is also the rare Barian plant, whose fruit transforms into a slimy membrane upon heating, used for treating external wounds but deadly poison if ingested. Han is confident that their endeavor will succeed and embarks on gathering botanical specimens. In any case, the young man requires ingredients with potent effects, and each drop of extract from these poisonous plants possesses the capability to extinguish a multitude of lives. It is a risk, but Han is left with no other choice. Overseeing the participants' work is Reynold, a skilled artisan of poison making. Reynold solely perceives potions of restoration or partially completed remedies. According to Reynold's opinion, no one can compare to his mastery, including the individual who insulted Han. Suddenly, Reynold notices Han and realizes that the young man isn't utilizing the equipment at all, despite its necessity due to time constraints. Meanwhile, Han conjures mana around his hands to extract the mana from the poison and transfer it into purified water, all accomplished without the aid of any equipment. Han even neutralizes the poison and enhances its beneficial properties. In theory, such a feat is possible, but in practice, no one has succeeded. Reynold becomes intrigued as to whom Han learned this from. If Han fails, the potency of the poison will be greatly enhanced, causing not only this building but everything within a radius of several kilometers to explode. Reynold summons the Overseer, demanding an immediate halt to the competition. The display board reveals the emergence of potion of unique caliber, crafted by Han Youngman. Reynold is astonished at how Han managed to create such a potent elixir. Han emerges victorious in the competition. He has concocted a potion of supreme fire, augmenting mana by 1000 and intensifying the flames by 80%. This potion was brewed by the lad utilizing a method from another realm. Due to the utilized ingredients, it could have been a lethal poison, but through skillful processing, the quality of the toxin was altered. By using this elixir, one's resistance to fire is permanently enhanced, and their mana is increased. Through concentration, Han's unique ability raised his level, reducing the limitations on utilizing his powers. The preparation of the elixir took the young man less time than he had anticipated. Han's mana had increased. Junior Reynold approaches Han and grabs him by the collar. Reynold says it cannot be possible for a newcomer like Han to concoct a potion of such high caliber. The young man asks Han if he is hiding something. Reynold Jr. continues to interrogate Han. Suddenly, Reynold Sr. appears and asks his son what he is even doing. The father tells his son that he is disgracing him and asks if he feels no shame. Reynold Jr. claims that Han is a fraud. Master Reynold asks his son if he thinks his father is blind. The young man says that everything is not as it seems. Reynold Sr. glares menacingly at his son, who bows before his father and begs for forgiveness. Master Reynold tells his son that he should apologize to the young man whom he offended. Reynold Jr. bows before Han and requests forgiveness. Han reassures him that everything is fine. Reynold Sr. the elder also inclines his head before the young man, who once again affirms that all is well. Master Reynold tells Han that he has been observing him from the very beginning and believes that Han has created an extraordinary potion. Reynold wants to know who Han's teacher is. Han replies that he learned on his own, which astonishes both the father and the son. Suddenly, a man in a suit approaches with a microphone and tells Han that it is time for him to ascend the podium. Han proceeds, while Master Reynold can hardly believe that such a talent existed in such a small country. Reynold considers Han a promising youth. The father praises his son, who promises to work even harder upon returning to his homeland. The awards ceremony commences, where the victor is presented with a trophy and accolade. The award is bestowed by Choi Bayam-jun, the father of adventurers, which astonishes Han. Choi presents the award to Han. Han inquires why his teacher is present. Choi understands that Han participated in the competition through the stone and also possesses the skill of potion making. Choi inquires of Han where he studied alchemy. The young man replies that he learned on his own and that this stone is of great importance to him. Choi was unaware of Han's skill in potion making, and Han continues to astonish his teacher. Choi asks Han if he joined the guild before becoming his apprentice. Han responds that he did not do so. Choi points to the stone that Han won and asks if the boy participated in the competition because of this object. Han states that it is a valuable ore, despite its unassuming appearance. Han then asks his teacher if he happens to know anyone with a rank higher than a master craftsman. Choi asserts that none of them will bother with some random stone. The young man clarifies that it is not just a stone, but an ore, and Choi can comprehend this if he examines it through the eye of an adventurer. For Choi, this little gem is merely a trinket, and he is not entirely inclined to utilize his unique skill for its sake. However, Han implores him to take a look at least once. Reluctantly, Choi employs his expertise to gather information about the stone. This is a stone of a singular class, amplifying and preserving mana while transforming it. This mineral conceals its rightful owner, as it can only be possessed by the worthy. Choi comprehends that even the organizers of the competition were uncertain about the exact nature of this mineral. Yet Han participated in the contest. But how did he guess? If it were a matter concerning Choi personally, he would have delved into the boy. Han doesn't understand why his teacher remains silent. Choi decides to keep an eye on Han for now. The teacher believes that his student will become incredibly strong. Choi states that he will convey to the master that Han needs assistance, but they must wait for a month. The young man expresses his gratitude. Choi advised his disciple to take a break, but the latter decided to engage in it. The teacher tells the boy that if he feels sad, he can go for a stroll with his friends, as he awaits arduous training. Han hasn't been in touch with his friends for a long time, and he is unsure if he deserves to reconnect with them. Han hasn't seen his only friend from the academy in 2 years. Suddenly, Han receives a call from that same friend, Temin. He isn't prepared for such a call, but he can't ignore it either. Suddenly, Han sees Temin standing nearby. The friends are equally surprised. Temin never expected to reunite with his friend so effortlessly. They hadn't communicated for such a long time. It's remarkable how the friends found themselves in the same place. A young man is named Kang Temin, either the first or second rank at the academy. Right from the start, he demonstrated exceptional performance in all subjects. He is a multi-talented individual, excelling above all in swordsmanship. His skills are more than sufficient for venturing into the dungeons of rank. Temin tells Han that their entire group chat erupted with excitement when he mentioned meeting Han. They are filled with envy. Han remarks that there is nothing to envy here. Temin adds that Yuna will join them shortly as soon as she reads the message. Han asks with surprise for further clarification. Yuna informed Temin that she is not far away, strolling nearby. Han never expected to see his friends so soon, and he is certain that Yuna will be thrilled. Han successfully navigated through his hardships, thanks to Yuna's support. It was not easy for her when they ceased communication. Temin requests Han to share with Yuna how he occupied himself during all this time. Suddenly, it becomes apparent that a devotee of the devil, an accursed individual affiliated with the Everton Association, is approaching nearby. One must rescue someone from a curse, and the reward for it is information about Everton. Han does not harbor any intentions of killing. Corrupted mana swirls around. Temin also senses it, but this mana is eerily familiar and drawing near. Yuna enters and rejoices at seeing Youngman. Han recalls how Yuna saved him once. Once upon a time, Han was walking through the academy and overheard gossip about himself. 3 boys were discussing how Youngman achieved the top rank in the entrance exams, despite lacking talent, and he was still allowed to deliver a speech. One of the young men remarks that Han should be ashamed. Han swiftly passes by those lads and confronts one of them. The lad trips Han and he falls down the stairs. Suddenly, Ki-Yuna appears and questions the young men about their audacity, demanding an apology while adding that if they gather to speak behind others' backs, it is better to remain silent. Ki-Yuna states that unlike them, Youngman diligently studies, referring to the young men as trash. One of the young men becomes furious at being called that and at the mention of his friends. The young man's friends calm him down, saying that it's none other than Ki-Yuna, the daughter of the guild master of the Heavenly Palace. The lad declares that he doesn't care and remains unflustered. In response, Yuna raises her middle finger. Then Yuna inquires if Han is alright and if he has had his lunch. Yuna and Teeman had a wager, and now Teeman owes Yuna a treat, so Yuna suggests asking Teeman to buy something for them. During those challenging times at the academy, Yuna became Han's closest companion after his admission. Tang Teeman and Ki-Yuna were known in many departments of the academy. However, they still targeted Han, as the first and second ranks in the practical exam associated with a failure like Han were intertwined. Engaging in physical confrontations within the classroom was prohibited, yet they resorted to regular exams and training battles to discourage others from picking on Han. Thus, he was grateful for their support and regretted their actions. Yuna inquires about the situation with the boys. Teeman mentions that it seems Yuna fell ill because she wasn't like this last time. Yuna reassures her friend that everything is fine. The doctor confirmed she's in good health. Han asks Yuna if anything has happened to her recently, and if she had been anywhere. Yuna narrates that the academy was preparing for an expedition into the dungeon, and she went for a preliminary exploration. Their objective was solely to enter the dungeon, so the professors accompanied them. It was then that Yuna noticed that the dungeon appeared ordinary, despite its recent emergence. Suddenly, the girl caught sight of something resembling blood on a stone and reached out to touch it, only to be repelled. She thought it might be a trap or illusion. Han tells the girl that her mana is too entangled to perceive it as a mere illusion. Yuna asks Han why he speaks such dreadful things, as she is genuinely fine. Han tells Yuna that Teeman is right, and they cannot leave it just like that. Han wants to examine Yuna, but the girl says that so much time has passed since their last meeting and apologizes for the inconvenience. Han reassures her that everything is fine and asks her to sit quietly for a moment. Han unleashes his mana, and his friends witness its healing properties. The Everton organization is a group that worships demons, capable of casting curses by harnessing the power of demons. Han's mana transforms into divine energy. Han has no choice but to resist using his divine power. Fortunately, the curse proves to be not very potent. Han states that he begins the healing process and extends his hands towards Yuna. The boy asks the girl to wait a little. Suddenly, the energy that was oppressing the girl vanishes. Astonished, his friends ask Han how he managed to accomplish this. Han requests them to speak one at a time. Han expresses to Yuna that he has received her assistance every day, thus he apologizes for making such a trivial mistake. Temin inquires if it was a healing power just now. Yuna states that she had heard rumors but didn't know for sure that this ability existed. Han responds that this ability is always different, and he is unaware of its specific name. Temin shakes Han as if the boy's shoulders might break. Temin says that regardless of what it is, the truth is that his friend has awakened, and he has been waiting for this moment for so long. Temin congratulates Han. Yuna is moved and expresses that she has always believed that Han would be able to accomplish it. The girl mentions that she probably needs to get Han's autograph, and searches for a piece of paper. Temin asks Han if he plans to throw a party after graduation and remarks how much Han has grown. Temin inquires when Han intends to return to the academy. Han reveals that he wants to leave the academy because he is currently training with a teacher and needs to focus on his practice. The friends, astonished, ask who Han's teacher is. Han says that he may disclose that information later, although he himself believes he will never be able to tell his friends that his teacher is Choi. Han apologizes to Teeman and Yuna for not keeping in touch, expressing that they are his most precious friends. Yuna reassures him that there is nothing to worry about and she is simply glad that Han is doing well. Teeman mentions that they haven't met in a long time and from now on, he asks Han to always call for any reason. Han assures them that he will indeed call and he is very excited to meet his friends, expressing his deep gratitude towards them. Han, exhausted, collapses at home with a large teddy bear he won from an arcade machine with his friends. It has been a long time since Han last had such leisurely fun. For his act of breaking Everton's curse, Han receives a reward, information about Everton. The young man learns that Everton is planning a new expedition into the Academy's underground. There are 15 days left until the expedition. This information signifies that Yuna and Timon could be in danger. The young man decides that he needs to call the professors, but he is hindered by the possibility that Everton's followers might find out and alter their tactics. Han tries to calm himself down, resolving that he must first stop them, as Everton is an organization he himself created. The young man deems it necessary to engage in this matter regardless of any obstacles, as he does not wish for people, especially Yuna and Timon, to suffer because of him. Han believes that he can no longer rely on their assistance and desires to defeat Everton within 15 days. When Han enters his training room, he can't contain his excitement. The young man considers this room even superior to the one in the academy. Choi presents Han with a pendant crafted from Bastium. Choi suggests starting the training and advises Han to warm up his body. Han steps into the room, where the doors lock behind him. The teacher has decided to make the room dirty. Choi pondered at length why he had to instruct Han. The teacher surmised that his student had likely mastered all the theory at the academy, and believed that the young man needed practical experience. Hence, he contaminated the room with poison. Mana within Han became extraordinarily sensitive. Sticky energy sought to engulf him. Han collapsed, unable to control his body. And what energy lies in the underground? Choi stated that even if it were a virtual reality, it would be difficult to withstand. Choi insisted that Han must first acclimate to the contamination before venturing into the underground. Choi implored Han to reveal what he was concealing. Han struggles to breathe, yet he must gather himself. Han begins to sense that his breathing has somewhat stabilized. The young man stabilizes faster than his teacher had anticipated. But even so, it is only the beginning. The underground is an ecosystem distinct from the real world, and it holds great allure for monsters. If someone dies in the underground, their remains leave only apparitions, and the energy of these apparitions contaminates the underground. Such polluted depths can even prove fatal to a person. Choi tells Han that he won't have time to conceal his unique ability. Han has never before encountered contamination of this nature. This complexity is not something that Han can endure through sheer perseverance alone. Han's mana protects his vital organs from the contaminated energy. The young man slowly reaches his limit. Han spends a significant amount of time in the poison room without utilizing his abilities. Choi is eager for Han to use his powers, but the boy is in no hurry to do so. Han states that the teacher should have informed him from the very beginning that he could use his abilities. Choi dislikes how Han jokes about it, and he remarks that the underground is no laughing matter. Meanwhile, Eden observes Han and believes that he is handling things well, but Eden thinks that if he were to subject the boy to trials, he wouldn't last a minute. Eden hints at the hero's mana being on a different level. Divine energy is not the only thing that can stand against the devil. The hero's mana is a highly purified energy possessed by only 7 heroes, and Han employs this mana. Choi believes that the boy is finally utilizing his unique ability. Han can resolve the pollution issue through purification. Han harnesses the power of a priest. Divine energy swiftly heals Han's body. Choi speculates that it is a power that borrows strength from spirits, and in such a case, Han will lose consciousness. Han informs his teacher that he is prepared. Choi is astonished that the boy hasn't lost consciousness yet. Choi begins to consider that Han used a different ability than he initially thought. The teacher has never encountered anything like this before. Han has been in the training room for 3 hours and 28 minutes. Choi refers to the boy not as a human, but as a monster. Han considers it a compliment. Choi states that it is not a compliment but an expression of admiration. The teacher instructs the student to stop pretending to have difficult times and to rise. Han remarks that he indeed has challenging times. Suddenly, Choi enters the training room and announces that fencing training will commence now. The boy inquires if the training will start precisely at this moment, and the teacher's words surprise him. Choi says that today he will finish his work a little later. Han stands in the restroom, admiring his muscles that have significantly grown after intense training. Moreover, he managed to acquire information about the Academy's planned visit to the dungeon, which he intends to explore. The excursion is scheduled to take place in a week. Fortunately, this particular dungeon is of the lowest difficulty level. The students will even have personnel to protect them, and the professors will accompany them as well. Could it be that they are going so far because of Everton? Han has prepared a lot for the confrontation with Everton. Thanks to the training with his teacher, not only has Han's physical prowess improved, but also his mana processing speed. Now Han can attempt a moderate level of diving. He was supposed to be weak, but there has also been improvement in alchemy, so the young man created potions of intermediate class and put them up for auction. He earned a large sum of money from the potions and decided to visit the artifact shop to purchase high-quality equipment with the earnings from selling the potions. The sword Han bought is much lighter than the one he had before. Additionally, Han acquired a magical bracelet that distorts space and can hold up to 200 kilograms. Eden observes as the young man boasts about himself and dreams of outshining Everton's followers. Eden asks what Han is actually doing and whether he wants Eden to steal all his skills. Suddenly, Han receives a call from his teacher. The association has requested Choi's service, stating that the safety of the students is important, so he has decided to go there as the head manager. Han doesn't understand why the master should also go since the students already have good protection. And besides, they are going to the dungeon with the lowest level of difficulty. Han expresses his desire to go as well. Initially, the teacher hesitates, but the young man persuades him, and Choi agrees, with the condition that Han stays close by. Han rejoices, but the teacher reminds him not to forget that visiting the dungeon is an extension of his training. After a week, the young man informs Taemin and Yuna that he will also join them in the underground. Taemin asks if Han plans to appear as a monster. Meanwhile, Everton's followers cannot understand why the curse that was placed on Yuna has disappeared, as she was clearly trapped. Everton's followers have prepared seeds that they will plant when the group descends into the dungeon. Han arrives earlier than anyone else to embark on the excursion, when suddenly Saren approaches him from behind. The girl inquires about what brought Han here. The young man asks about her presence, whether she is here to join the excursion. Saren firmly responds that she was chosen because she received a scholarship. Except for Yuna and Taemin, if something goes awry, Saren may find herself in real danger. Yuna and Taemin approach, greeting Han and Saren from a distance. Taemin asks if they can also participate in the event. Saren asks why Taemin says that Han withdrew. Taemin explains that Han withdrew because he found himself a teacher. Saren is curious about who the boy's teacher is. Choi arrives, and everyone is thrilled that he will accompany them into the underground. Han doesn't want to catch the attention of the teacher, to the point where he even contemplates going home. Choi approaches Han and greets him, stating that the boy should greet him when they meet. Choi asks Han if he's pretending not to know his teacher. Han assures him that it's certainly not the case and introduces his teacher to his friends. While the bus travels to the destination, the friends inquire of Han about his mentor, and they are simply enthralled by the fact that Choi is his guide. Upon arrival, the group finds themselves in a forest. Taemin tells Yuna that this differs slightly from what she mentioned before, as she made no mention of a forest. Saren supposes that they may have taken the wrong path. Yuna remarks that this place seems peculiar, and she thinks they should inform the professors about it, as they stated that the group would go to the easiest level. It appears that the level of the dungeon has changed. Saren is frightened by such circumstances, and she wishes to depart from there as swiftly as possible. She cannot even bear to watch horror films. Yujil dislikes having Han with them as he despises the boy. Suddenly, the group is attacked by specters. Han recalls this episode from his novel and implores them not to assail the spirits under any circumstances. Choi inquires about the boy's intentions, as these are malevolent spirits in the dungeon. Han states that they do not attack. If they had intended to, they would have done so already. Choi inquires how Han can be so confident about this. These specters are the spirits of people who died due to the followers of the devil. If they were to be attacked, all the deceased in this forest would turn into malevolent spirits and attempt to kill. Han states that he read about it in a book before. One of Choi's colleagues asks him what he is doing and if he intends to believe the words of this child. Choi orders not to attack the specters. Everyone is shocked by these words, and some are angry. Choi declares that he will address all complaints later. The head of the fencing department asserts that what Han said is not true and he only said it out of fear. Han states that he said it not out of fear, and they can leave the dungeon without harming anyone. Choi suggests calming down, as there are more important matters than engaging in a battle in the underground. Choi mentions that there are also evil spirits here that should not be attacked, proposes finding an exit from the dungeon, and implores the head of the department to calm down. Suddenly, the head of the fencing department launches an attack on the spirits and slays them single-handedly, claiming it was effortless for him. Han reproaches himself, as he should have stopped the head regardless of anything. Choi asks the head if he has forgotten who is responsible for this dungeon. The head inquires about what he said and asks if Choi believes in what his student said. One of the group members asks Choi if he doesn't remember the words he wrote in his book. Within the dungeon, one must expect anything and perceive everyone as their enemy. Choi asks this young man if he knows how leaders treat team members who ignore their orders and act independently. The complexity of the dungeon begins to escalate from low to moderate. The spirits start fleeing, claiming that their friends have been slain. The students fail to comprehend why Director Choi hesitates in this matter, even though it seems that these spirits lack the ability to attack. The mist grows denser. Choi asks Han for his thoughts. Han questions whether they should intervene, but it is already too late. All the dungeon's spirits transform into malevolent entities and seek vengeance for their fallen comrades. Temin falls to the ground, questioning the nature of these creatures. The head of the department drops to his knees, coughing uncontrollably. Choi requests Saren to assist in repositioning the head of the department, as it will be problematic if he perishes. Choi asserts that if the spirits have turned into malevolent entities, he can intervene. Han counters that it won't work and requests to handle the matter himself. Nervously, Choi asks Han if he plans to do nothing while the spirits attack their people. Han explains that he is familiar with this dungeon, and if they were to engage these spirits, they could transform into far more malicious beings. Han desires to protect his friends with his own strength, as he knew only to rely on himself. He implores Choi to trust him, as he can save their friends. Choi agrees. Choi bestows upon Han a ring, stating that he will intervene if the young man fails. This exquisite ring of illusion is exceedingly rare, capable of altering the user's appearance through mana manipulation and even creating clones when necessary. Choi acknowledges Han's strength but emphasizes the need for him to feign weakness and play a role. Han declares his willingness to take on the task, acknowledging the significant risk involved as the spirits have transformed into malevolent entities. Nonetheless, he must proceed, as it was his actions that led those children to become what they are now. These children were forsaken by their parents, either used as human shields in war or left to perish in solitude. They have suffered far too much, and it is not a brawl that they require. What these children truly need is rest. Han dons the ring and submerges himself into the temple of the heretic, Michel Condor, a figure who spent his childhood under the care of priests in a small sanctuary. As a priest himself, the young man has saved countless souls beyond the temple's confines. Michel, a higher-ranking clergyman, instills doubt in Han's mind as to whether he will be able to prevail. Han catches sight of Ariana, who prays for him. Eden observes the events and marvels at how Ariana ended up there. Han receives a small crucifix. The boy transforms into an intermediate-level character for the first time. The illusion ring has granted Han the appearance of Michel. Choi witnesses Han's magic, which reminds him of the magic the boy used during his initial training, but it appears more potent. How did Han achieve such power in just 2 weeks? Choi believes this child is truly a prodigy. Han, embodying Michel, ascends into the heavens, and the malevolent spirits retreat from the radiance emanating from him. A golden rain descends, inflicting harm upon the spirits. As the students gaze upon Han, they perceive him as a saint, unable to fathom his origin, for Michel appears exceedingly resplendent in their eyes. Even if the children have transformed into malevolent spirits due to the ill treatment they endured, Han, as the author of their story, must protect them. The malevolent spirits begin to weep and transfigure into children. Han has harnessed a power far surpassing the abilities of his mortal form. The young man reverts to his original form and collapses onto the ground. Choi kneels beside him, and Yuna inquires what she can do for her friend. Choi remarks that such an outcome was to be expected, as it is surely arduous to exhibit such power in such a short span of time. Choi has never witnessed such potency accompanied by such adverse effects. Han lies motionless, drenched in blood. Choi urges haste in transporting the young man to the hospital and sending a request for restorative elixirs to the association. Suddenly, Everton's servants appear, proclaiming their intent to assist by deploying explosives. The Everton servants proclaim that if the group wishes to survive, they must surrender the 8th hero. Choi commands the students to ensure Han's well-being and swiftly transport him to the hospital. One of the servants shouts that they won't allow anyone to leave this place. Choi confronts the person and states that he needs to go to the hospital, inviting them to visit him another time. Han awakens in the hospital. Choi polishes an apple and inquires about sleeping for 3 days. The first thing Han asks is if everyone is safe. Choi informs him that a saintly figure appeared and saved them all. Choi reveals to Han that he passed out and frightened them all. Choi was concerned that Han would perish while utilizing that skill. Choi reveals that he has some distressing news. Han inquires if anything happened to his friends. Choi asks if Han ever told his parents about leaving the academy because Choi informed them. This angered Han, and he referred to Choi as old. Choi asks what Han means by calling him old since Han was supposed to tell him about it at some point. Han and Choi argue, and the nurse requests them to maintain silence in the hospital. Han decides to pay a visit to his parents, whom he hasn't seen since he took an academic sabbatical nearly 2 years ago, all because of Choi. Han's parents even hung a poster in the village when he joined the academy. What has happened has happened. Han thinks he should bow his head to the ground and beg for forgiveness. Han indulges in the food prepared by his mother, his favorite dish. His mother suggests that perhaps he hasn't had enough and offers dessert. The young man says he will vomit if he eats any more. His father sternly states that his son not only took an academic sabbatical but also left the academy, despite the tremendous effort the young man put into getting admitted there. The father adds that the underground is perilous and leaving the academy was a misguided idea. The mother asks Han about the possibility of finding a proper and secure career, as she heard that an underground facility appeared near their home 2 months ago, and she is genuinely frightened. The father states that life outside the house is hazardous and orders his son to stay indoors. It was precisely 2 months ago that Han's novel was plagiarized without permission. And that's how the first part of this manhwa ends. Well guys, if you liked this video and you want a second part, comment below with the word part 2. Also subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell and like the video. But most important, leave a comment. Until the next video.